My marriage faded at exactly 8:47 p.m. on a Tuesday, destroyed by a single photograph and my own stubborn belief that honesty still mattered in this world. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me back up and tell you how Jake Harper, graphic designer extraordinaire and certified fool, learned that sometimes the truth isn't just inconvenient, it's downright devastating. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. I was sitting in my cramped apartment, nursing a beer that had gone warm an hour ago, when my phone buzzed. Emily had texted again. Still in the meeting with Brandon. This client presentation is running long. Don't wait up. Right. The client presentation. At 9 o'clock at night, on a Tuesday, in a restaurant that definitely didn't look like any conference room I'd ever seen. See, that's the thing about being married to someone for 8 years. You develop a sixth sense for their bullshit. Emily used to be a terrible liar. Used to stumble over her words, blush, avoid eye contact. Now she lied with the practiced ease of a politician during election season. Does the client like my shirt? I texted back, because apparently I'm a glutton for punishment. 3 dots appeared, then disappeared. Then appeared again. Classic Emily. Crafting the perfect lie takes time. My phone rang. Tyler. Jake, you need to see something, my best friend said without preamble. Tyler Martinez owned the bar where I'd been drowning my sorrows for the past 3 months, ever since Emily started having all these late-night meetings. He was also the kind of friend who'd tell you when you had spinach in your teeth, even if it embarrassed you in front of your crush. Can it wait? I'm having a fascinating text conversation with my wife about her very important business meeting. That's exactly what I'm calling about. Check your email, now. I switched to my email app, and there it was. 3 photos, timestamp 8:43 p.m. Emily and Brandon Hunt, her boss, at Salvatore's, the fancy Italian place downtown. The same Brandon who was supposedly in this crucial client meeting. The same Brandon who was married with 2 kids. In the first photo, they were sitting close, too close. Emily's hand was on his arm, her head thrown back in laughter at something he'd said. In the second, Brandon's hand was on her thigh. In the third, well, let's just say that if this was a business meeting, they were about to merge more than just companies. I stared at the photos for a full minute, my brain struggling to process what I was seeing. Emily. My Emily. The woman who claimed she was too tired for closeness, too busy for date nights, too stressed for conversation. She had plenty of energy for Brandon, apparently. My phone buzzed again. Emily. Client loves the proposal. We might be here another hour celebrating. You know how these things go. Love you. Love you. Right. I forwarded the photos to my personal email, then took screenshots for good measure. 8 years of marriage had taught me to document everything when Emily was in cover-up mode. Then I did something I'd never done before. I called her. She answered on the 4th ring, slightly breathless. Jake? What's wrong? I told you I'd be late. Just wanted to hear your voice, I said, my tone carefully neutral. How's the client meeting going? Oh, you know how it is. Boring PowerPoint presentations, terrible conference room coffee. Brandon's doing most of the talking. I bet he was. What restaurant did you say you were at again? A pause. Just half a second, but I caught it. Restaurant? We're not at a restaurant, honey. We're in the office conference room. I think I mentioned that. Right. The conference room. With the client. Exactly. Listen, I should get back. This is really important for my career. I'm sure it is. Don't work too hard. After I hung up, I sat in my apartment for another hour, staring at those photos. Emily looked happy. Genuinely, radiantly happy in a way I hadn't seen in months, maybe years. When was the last time she'd laughed like that with me? When was the last time she'd touched my arm while telling a story? The answer was depressing. I couldn't remember. My phone rang again. This time it was Emily, and she sounded panicked. "Jake, I just realized how late it is. The meeting ran so long, and then Brandon offered to buy dinner to discuss the next steps, and thought you said you were in the conference room." Another pause. Longer this time. "We were. But then we moved to discuss things over dinner. You know how Brandon is. He likes to keep things casual." Oh, I was learning exactly how Brandon liked to keep things. "Which restaurant?" That little place on 5th Street. You wouldn't know it. Salvatore's was on 3rd Street. But who's counting? Well, have fun with your business dinner, with your boss, at 9:30 at night, on a Tuesday. Jake, you're being weird. Is everything okay? Everything's perfect, Em. Absolutely perfect. I hung up and immediately started making plans. 8 years of marriage was about to end, but not quietly, not privately, and definitely not on Emily's terms. I'd always believed in honesty. It was practically my religion. Tell the truth, treat people fairly, honor your commitments. But Emily had just taught me something valuable. Sometimes honesty is a luxury you can't afford. Sometimes you need to fight dirty. And I was about to get very, very dirty. The next morning, Emily came home at 6 a.m., slipping into bed like she'd been there all night. I pretended to be asleep, listening to her careful movements, the way she held her breath when the mattress creaked. She smelled like expensive cologne, not the drugstore stuff I wore, but something with notes of bergamot and lies. "Morning, beautiful," I said when my alarm went off an hour later. She startled, then forced a smile. "Morning. You're up early." "Big day at work. How was your client dinner?" "Oh, you know, boring business stuff. We closed the deal, though, so that's good news." I nodded, sipping my coffee. Emily looked exhausted, but it was the good kind of exhausted, the satisfied kind, the kind that comes from getting exactly what you want. "That's great, honey. Really great. Brandon must be thrilled." She glanced at me sharply. "Why would you say that?" "Well, he's your boss. When you succeed, he succeeds. Team effort and all that." "Right, team effort." She grabbed her coffee and headed for the shower. "I've got another late meeting tonight. This project is really heating up." I bet it was. After Emily left for work, I called in sick and spent the day doing research. Brandon Hunt, 39, married to Patricia Hunt for 15 years, 2 kids, Michael and Sarah, ages 12 and 14. Big house in the suburbs, country club membership, the works. He was Emily's direct supervisor at Morrison Marketing, had been for 2 years. Right around the time Emily started working late and losing interest in our marriage. I also called my friend Chris, who worked in IT security. We'd gone to college together, and he owed me a favor from when I'd designed his company's logo for free. "I need to recover some deleted text messages," I told him. "From your phone or someone else's?" "Mine. Emily and I share a phone plan." Chris was quiet for a moment. "Jake, are you sure you want to go down this road? Sometimes it's better not to know." "I already know. I just need proof." "Okay, bring me her phone tonight and I'll see what I can do. But Jake, whatever you find, don't do anything stupid." That evening, Emily came home with takeout from Salvatore's. The irony wasn't lost on me. "Thought we could have a nice dinner together," she said, unpacking containers of pasta and breadsticks. "I know I've been working a lot lately." "This is nice," I said, accepting a kiss on the cheek. She tasted like guilt and marinara sauce. "Hey, your phone's been buzzing. Might be important." While she checked her messages in the kitchen, I switched our phones. Same model, same black case. She'd never notice, at least not immediately. Dinner was surreal. Emily chatted about her day, carefully editing out any mention of Brandon except in the most professional context. She asked about my work, complimented the new logo I was designing for a local bakery, even suggested we plan a weekend trip. "Maybe we could go to that bed and breakfast in Vermont," she said. "The one we talked about for our anniversary." Our anniversary. Right. The one she'd forgotten last month because of a work emergency. That sounds perfect, I lied. After dinner, I made an excuse about meeting Tyler for drinks and headed to Chris's apartment. He lived in a converted warehouse downtown, surrounded by enough computer equipment to launch a satellite. "This is going to take a few hours," he said, connecting Emily's phone to his setup. "Want to tell me what's going on?" So I told him. About the photos, the lies, the late-night meetings, about how my wife of 8 years had turned into a stranger who smiled at me over dinner while texting another man. "I'm sorry, Jake. That's rough." The thing is, I'm not even surprised. I think part of me has known for months. I just didn't want to admit it. Chris nodded, his fingers flying over the keyboard. "You know what the worst part is? It's not even the cheating. It's the lying. The way she looks you in the eye and tells you she loves you while she's planning to meet him." Exactly. I watched lines of code scroll across his monitor. "How long has this been going on?" "Based on what I'm seeing here, about 4 months, maybe longer. She's been deleting messages, but not very carefully. Look at this." He pulled up a text thread between Emily and Brandon. Hundreds of messages, dating back to January. It started professional enough. Meeting times, project updates, client information. But by February, things had shifted. Brandon: "Dinner was amazing last night. Can't stop thinking about you." Emily: "Me too. Jake's working late Thursday. My place?" Brandon: "Can't wait. You're incredible, Em." Emily: "Better than your wife?" Brandon: "Not even close. Patricia's so boring. You make me feel alive again." I felt like I was going to throw up. "There's more," Chris said gently. "A lot more. They've been planning this for weeks. Hotels, weekend trips when you thought she was at conferences. Jake, I'm sorry, but she's been living a double life." I scrolled through message after message. Emily complaining about our marriage, about how I was boring and predictable. Brandon promising to leave his wife. Emily saying she was working up the courage to ask for a divorce. Plans for a future that didn't include me. The worst part was reading Emily's messages about me. How I was sweet but clueless. How she felt guilty but couldn't help herself. How Brandon made her feel like a woman again, instead of just a wife. "What are you going to do?" Chris asked. I stared at the phone, at the evidence of my wife's betrayal spelled out in blue and gray text bubbles. 4 months of lies. 4 months of "I love you" and "How was your day?" while she planned her exit strategy. "I'm going to destroy them both," I said quietly. "But I'm going to be smart about it." Chris raised an eyebrow. "Define smart." "Emily wants to play games? Fine. But she's about to learn that I'm much better at this than she thinks." I spent the next hour copying everything. Text messages, photos, email threads Chris had recovered from her cloud backup. Emily had been sloppy, probably because she thought I was too trusting to check up on her. She was right about the trusting part. But trust, once broken, turns into something much more dangerous. It turns into strategy. When I got home, Emily was asleep, or pretending to be. I slipped her phone back onto the nightstand and lay down beside her, staring at the ceiling. The woman next to me was a stranger. Had been for months, maybe longer. I'd been living with a ghost, a performance, a carefully constructed lie designed to keep me docile while she planned her escape. But Emily had made one crucial mistake. She'd underestimated me. Tomorrow, the real fun would begin. I woke up before Emily and spent an hour in my home office printing everything. Text messages, photos, email threads, the complete record of my wife's affair laid out in black and white. Then I made copies. Lots of copies. Emily emerged from the bedroom looking guilty and exhausted. "Morning. How was drinks with Tyler?" "Enlightening," I said, not looking up from my coffee. She paused at the kitchen counter, something in my tone catching her attention. "Everything okay?" "Perfect. Just perfect." I smiled at her, the same smile I'd been giving her for months, while she lied to my face. "Big day at work today?" "The usual, meetings, presentations, probably another late night." "With Brandon?" Another pause. Among others, it's a team project. Right. The team. I stood up, grabbing my laptop bag. Well, have fun with your team building. I kissed her cheek. She flinched slightly and headed for the door. Jake, are you sure you're okay? You seem different. I turned back, giving her my best concerned husband expression. Just tired, I guess. Haven't been sleeping well lately. Weird dreams. About what? Oh, you know, the usual anxiety stuff. Dreams about being betrayed by the people closest to me. Silly, right? Emily's face went pale. That does sound silly. I'm sure it's nothing. See you tonight, honey. Assuming you're not too busy with your team. The first stop was Morrison Marketing. I'd been there plenty of times for company parties, knew the layout pretty well. Emily worked on the 3rd floor. Brandon's corner office was on the 4th. I took the elevator to the 2nd floor and found the break room. Corporate break rooms are gossip central, and Morrison's was no exception. I grabbed a cup of coffee and waited. Sure enough, within 10 minutes, 2 women from Emily's department walked in. Did you see Emily's new bracelet? One of them was saying. Looks expensive. Brandon's been very generous with the team bonuses lately, the other replied with a knowing look. Especially with Emily. Well, she has been working very closely with him on that new account. They both laughed, the kind of laugh that said everyone knew exactly what kind of work Emily and Brandon were doing. Perfect. I finished my coffee and took the stairs to the 4th floor. Brandon's assistant was away from her desk, so I walked right into his office. He was on the phone, feet up on his desk, laughing about something. I'll call you back, he said when he saw me, hanging up quickly. Mr. Hunt? Jake Harper, Emily's husband. His face went through several interesting color changes. Jake? What a surprise. Emily's not here, if you're looking for her. Actually, I wanted to talk to you. I sat down uninvited, making myself comfortable. About the project you and Emily have been working on. The Morrison account? It's going well. Emily's very talented. Oh, I know exactly how talented my wife is, and I know exactly what kind of project you two have been working on. Brandon's smile faltered. I'm not sure what you mean. I pulled out my phone and showed him one of the photos from Salvatore's. This kind of project. The color drained from his face completely. Jake, I can explain. No need. I understand perfectly. You're sleeping with my wife. She's planning to leave me for you. You've been lying to your wife and kids. Did I miss anything? Brandon stood up, trying to regain some authority. I think you should leave. Oh, I'm leaving. But first, I wanted to give you something. I placed a manila envelope on his desk. Photos, text messages, the works. Consider it a preview of what your wife's going to see if this doesn't stop immediately. You can't. I can, and I will. See, Brandon, you made a mistake. You thought I was just some boring husband who'd never catch on. But here's the thing. Boring doesn't mean stupid. I stood up, straightening my jacket. You have 24 hours to end this. Tell Emily it's over. Transfer her to another department, whatever you need to do. Because if I find out you've so much as looked at my wife after today, your wife Patricia is going to get a very interesting email. This is blackmail. No, this is honesty. Something you might want to try sometime. I left him sitting there, staring at the envelope like it might explode. Phase 1 complete. Next stop. Emily's parents. Robert and Linda Chambers lived in a pristine suburban house where everything was beige and judgmental. They'd never liked me. Thought Emily could do better than a graphic designer, but they were old-fashioned people who believed in marriage and family values. They were also Emily's biggest weakness. Jake, Linda answered the door with surprise. What brings you here? Is Emily with you? Actually, I wanted to talk to you both about Emily. Is Robert home? Of course, come in. You look upset. Is everything all right? Robert appeared from his study, looking annoyed at the interruption. Jake, this is unexpected. I'm sorry to bother you, but I need to show you something. About Emily. I sat them down in their formal living room and pulled out the photos. Linda gasped, covering her mouth. Robert's face turned purple with rage. "This is Emily?" Linda whispered. "With her boss? His name is Brandon Hunt. He's married with 2 children. This has been going on for at least 4 months. Robert stood up, pacing. "I can't believe this. We raised her better than this. She's been lying to me for months. Late meetings, business trips, client dinners, all lies." Linda started crying. "Oh, Jake, I'm so sorry. What are you going to do?" "I'm going to fight for my marriage, but I need your help. Emily respects your opinion more than anyone's." "Of course," Robert said immediately. "We'll call her right now. Actually, I was hoping you might do more than that. Maybe invite her to dinner this weekend. Let her know you're aware of the situation." Linda nodded, wiping her eyes. "We'll make her understand how wrong this is." Perfect. Emily's parents were now my allies, and their disappointment would hit her harder than anything I could say. I spent the rest of the day making copies and planning my next moves. By the time Emily came home, late, of course, I was ready for phase 2. "How was work?" I asked innocently. She looked rattled, distracted. "Fine, just fine." Brandon seemed upset about something, but he wouldn't say what. "Probably just work stress. You know how demanding clients can be." Emily nodded absently, checking her phone. No messages from Brandon, I'd bet. He was probably too busy panicking to text his mistress. "Your mom called," I said casually. "They want us to come to dinner this weekend." Emily looked up sharply. "Both of us?" "Both of us." She seemed insistent, said it was important family time. I watched Emily's face as she processed this. Her parents rarely invited me to anything. If they were specifically requesting my presence, something was wrong. Did she say what it was about? Nope. Just that they missed us and wanted to catch up. Emily's phone buzzed. She grabbed it eagerly, then frowned. "It's just work stuff." No, it wasn't. It was probably Brandon trying to figure out how to handle the situation. But Emily didn't need to know that I knew that. "I'm going to take a shower," she said, heading for the bedroom. While she was in the bathroom, I checked the phone I'd cloned. Sure enough, Brandon had been texting frantically all afternoon. "We need to talk. Your husband knows. Meet me tomorrow. We have to figure this out. Don't panic, but we might need to cool things off for a while." Emily had responded with increasing desperation. "What did he say to you? How much does he know? We can't stop now. I love you." But Brandon's last message was telling. "I'm sorry, Em. I can't risk my family for this. It's over." I smiled, settling back on the couch. Round 1 to Jake Harper. Emily emerged from the shower looking pale and shaken. She'd probably been texting Brandon from the bathroom, getting the news that her perfect little affair was falling apart. "Everything okay?" I asked. "Fine. Just tired." "Well, get some rest. Tomorrow's going to be a big day." She looked at me suspiciously. "Why? What's tomorrow?" "Oh, nothing special. Just life, you know. Life has a way of surprising you when you least expect it." Emily went to bed early, claiming a headache. I stayed up late, planning the next phase of my campaign. Brandon might be backing down, but Emily wasn't going to give up that easily. She'd try to salvage the relationship, maybe even convince him to leave his wife. But I had other plans. Much better plans. By the time I finally went to bed, Emily was asleep, or pretending to be. I lay there in the dark, listening to her breathe, thinking about the woman I'd married 8 years ago. She'd been different then, honest, loyal, loving, or maybe she'd just been a better actress. Either way, that woman was gone. And the woman lying next to me now was about to learn what happened when you betrayed Jake Harper. Game on. The next morning, Emily was a nervous wreck. She kept checking her phone, jumping every time it buzzed, and barely touched her breakfast. Brandon's radio silence was clearly getting to her. "You seem distracted," I observed, buttering my toast with deliberate care. Just work stuff. Big presentation today. With Brandon? She flinched. Among others. I nodded sympathetically. Well, I'm sure everything will work out exactly as it should. After Emily left, I called Tyler. I need a favor. Name it. Can you get me into Salvatore's tonight? Maybe set up a little surprise? Tyler was quiet for a moment. Jake, what are you planning? Nothing illegal. Just a conversation with some old friends. Which old friends? The ones who've been lying to me for 4 months. Tyler sighed. All right. But I'm coming with you. Someone needs to make sure you don't do anything stupid. I'm not going to do anything stupid, Ty. I'm going to do something smart. That afternoon, I got a call from Linda Chambers. Jake, we talked to Emily. She's very upset. What did she say? She denied everything at first, but when we showed her the photos, she broke down. She admitted to the affair, but she says she loves this man. She says she's unhappy in her marriage. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. Even though I'd expected it, hearing it confirmed was devastating. She wants to meet with you tonight, Linda continued, to talk things through. We told her she needs to end this immediately and fight for her marriage. Where does she want to meet? Salvatore's. 8 o'clock. Of course. The scene of the crime. I'll be there. I spent the rest of the day preparing, not just emotionally, but practically. I printed out more photos, organized the text messages chronologically, and prepared a folder of evidence that would make a prosecutor jealous. At 7:30, Tyler and I arrived at Salvatore's. He'd arranged for us to have a table in the back corner with a clear view of the entrance. The same table where Emily and Brandon had been sitting in those photos. You sure about this? Tyler asked as we ordered drinks. I'm sure. Emily arrived at exactly 8 o'clock, looking beautiful and guilty in equal measure. She'd dressed carefully, the blue dress I'd bought her for our anniversary, the one she claimed to love but never wore. She was pulling out all the stops. She sat down across from me, her hands shaking slightly. Jake, we need to talk. I'm listening. I know you know about Brandon. My parents showed me the photos. And I want you to know that I never meant for this to happen. It developed over time. I leaned back in my chair, studying her face. 4 months, Emily. 4 months of lying to me every single day. I know it was wrong. But Jake, I haven't been happy for a long time. So you decided to have an affair instead of talking to me about it? I tried to talk to you. You never listen. You're always working, always distracted. Brandon makes me feel alive again. Brandon's married with 2 kids. He's going to leave Patricia. We've talked about it. I almost laughed. Emily, Brandon ended things yesterday. He's not leaving his wife. He's not choosing you. Her face crumpled. That's not true. He loves me. He loves the excitement of sneaking around. But when push came to shove, he chose his family over you. You're lying. I pulled out my phone and showed her Brandon's text messages. Am I? Emily read through them, her face growing paler with each message. When she got to the final one, I'm sorry, Em. I can't risk my family for this. It's over. She started crying. He was scared, she whispered. You threatened him. I told him the truth. That's all. I told him his wife deserved to know what kind of man she married. Jake, please, we can work through this. I'll end things with Brandon. We can go to counseling. Why? So you can lie to a therapist too? I'm not lying now. I want to save our marriage. I leaned forward, looking directly into her eyes. Emily, do you love me? She hesitated. Just for a second, but it was enough. Of course I do. That's not what you told Brandon. According to your text messages, you told him I was boring and predictable. You said being married to me felt like being buried alive. I was angry. I didn't mean it. You also told him you were planning to ask me for a divorce after the holidays. Were you angry then too? Emily's tears were flowing freely now. Jake, please. I made a mistake, a huge mistake, but I want to fix this. The mistake wasn't the affair, Emily. The mistake was thinking I was too stupid to figure it out. I stood up, dropping a 20 on the table. Enjoy your dinner. And Emily? Next time you want to end a marriage, have the courage to do it honestly. I started to walk away, but she grabbed my arm. Where are you going? Home, to pack your things. Jake, wait, please. I love you. I know I haven't shown it, but I do love you. I looked down at her tear-stained face, at the woman I'd loved for 8 years, and felt nothing but pity. No, you don't. You love the idea of me, the security, the stability, the safety net. But you don't love me. If you did, you wouldn't have been able to lie to me for 4 months. I gently removed her hand from my arm. Goodbye, Emily. Outside the restaurant, Tyler was waiting by his car. How'd it go? About as well as expected. She wants to work things out. And you? I looked back at the restaurant, where Emily was probably still sitting at our table, crying into her wine. I'm done, Ty, completely done. So what now? Now comes the fun part. Tyler raised an eyebrow. Which is? Emily thinks this is over. She thinks she can cry and apologize and everything will go back to normal. But she's wrong. This is just the beginning. Jake, maybe you should think about this. Revenge isn't going to make you feel better. Maybe not. But it's going to make me feel something other than stupid. We drove back to my apartment in silence. Emily's car wasn't in the parking lot yet. She was probably still at Salvatore's, trying to process what had just happened. I spent the evening boxing up her belongings, clothes, books, photos, all the detritus of our shared life. It was surprisingly therapeutic, like cleaning out an infected wound. Emily came home around 11, her eyes red from crying. She found me in the bedroom, taping up the last box. What are you doing? Packing your things. I figured you'd want to stay with your parents for a while. Jake, you can't just kick me out. This is my home too. Actually, it's not. The lease is in my name. Has been since we moved in. She stared at the boxes, then at me. You're really doing this. I'm really doing this. What about counseling? What about working through our problems? Emily, you don't get to cheat on me for 4 months and then demand counseling. You made your choice. I chose wrong. I know that now. Brandon was a mistake. No, Brandon was a symptom. The mistake was thinking you could have both. The security of being married to me and the excitement of being with him. Emily sat down on the bed, looking lost. So that's it? 8 years of marriage, and you're just giving up? I'm not giving up. I'm accepting reality. You checked out of this marriage months ago. I'm just making it official. I don't have anywhere to go. You have your parents. You have friends. You have Brandon. Oh, wait, no, you don't. She flinched at that last part. Good. Jake, please. I know I hurt you, but we can fix this. I sat down next to her, close enough to see the desperation in her eyes. Emily, answer me honestly. If Brandon had chosen you over his wife, would you be here right now trying to save our marriage? She opened her mouth to respond, then closed it. That's what I thought. I stood up, grabbing the first box. Your parents are expecting you. I already called them. You called my parents? Someone had to. You certainly weren't going to tell them the truth. Emily followed me to the living room, watching as I loaded her belongings by the door. This is really happening. This is really happening. What happens now? I looked at her, this woman I'd loved and trusted and built a life with, and felt something cold settle in my chest. Now you get to live with the consequences of your choices. All of them. Jake, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I know you are, Em. You're sorry you got caught. She left that night, crying and pleading and making promises she should have made 4 months ago. I watched her car disappear into the darkness and felt a strange sense of relief. Phase 1 was complete. Emily was gone, her affair was over, and her perfect little fantasy had crumbled. But I wasn't done. Not even close. Tomorrow, the real fun would begin. 2 weeks passed in relative quiet. Emily was staying with her parents, calling me daily with tearful apologies and desperate pleas for reconciliation. I let her calls go to voicemail, saving each message as evidence of her emotional manipulation. Brandon, meanwhile, had apparently learned his lesson. According to my sources at Morrison Marketing, I'd made friends with a few gossipy employees. He was keeping his head down and avoiding any mention of Emily. His wife, Patricia, had no idea how close her marriage had come to imploding. But Emily wasn't giving up that easily. Tyler called me on a Thursday afternoon. "Jake, you need to get down here, now." "What's wrong?" "Emily's here, with Brandon, and they're not being subtle about it." I was at Tyler's bar in 10 minutes. Sure enough, there they were at a corner booth, holding hands across the table like teenagers. Emily was wearing the red dress she'd worn on our first date, and Brandon was gazing at her with the kind of dopey expression that suggested he'd had a sudden change of heart about his family values. "How long have they been here?" I asked Tyler. "About an hour. They've been all over each other the whole time. It's disgusting." I watched them for a moment, feeling that familiar cold rage settle in my stomach. "Get me a beer and call Chris." "Chris? Why?" "Because it's time for the grand finale." While Tyler made the call, I observed my wife and her lover. They looked happy, giddy even. Probably thought they'd weathered the storm and could go back to their secret affair. Emily had probably convinced Brandon that I was too weak to follow through on my threats, that we could all just pretend this never happened. They were about to learn how wrong they were. Chris arrived 20 minutes later, carrying a laptop bag and wearing the kind of grin that meant trouble. "Please tell me you have something good," I said. "Oh, I have something better than good. I have something nuclear." He opened his laptop, showing me a screen full of financial records. "Remember how you asked me to look into Brandon's business expenses?" "Yeah." "Well, turns out Mr. Hunt has been very generous with company money. Hotels, restaurants, gifts, all charged to Morrison Marketing as client entertainment, except the clients don't exist." I stared at the screen. "How much are we talking about?" "About $30,000 over the past 6 months, all of it spent on Emily." "That's embezzlement. That's felony embezzlement, and I have every receipt, every credit card statement, every fake expense report." I looked back at Emily and Brandon, still lost in their romantic bubble, completely unaware that their world was about to explode. "Can you send this to Morrison's CEO?" "Already prepared the email, just need your word." "Not yet. First, I want to have a conversation with the happy couple." I walked over to their table, pulling up a chair uninvited. Well, look who's back together." Emily went pale. Brandon looked like he was going to be sick. "Jake," Emily stammered, "this isn't what it looks like." "Really? Because it looks like you're on a date with your married boss 2 weeks after promising to end your affair." "We're just talking," Brandon said weakly. "About what?" "How to spend more of Morrison Marketing's money on hotel rooms." Brandon's face went white. "What are you talking about?" I pulled out my phone, showing them photos of expense reports and credit card statements. $30,000, Brandon. That's how much you've embezzled to fund your little affair. That's not embezzlement. Those were legitimate business expenses. For which clients? Because I've checked, and none of the companies you listed actually exist. Emily grabbed Brandon's arm. "What is he talking about?" "Nothing. He's bluffing." I laughed. "Am I? Emily, did you know that the weekend trip to Napa Valley was paid for with company funds? How about that bracelet you're wearing? Also a business expense, apparently." Emily looked down at her wrist, then at Brandon. "You said you paid for these things yourself." "I did. I mean, I will. I'll pay the company back. With what money? I asked. You're already living beyond your means. That's why you started stealing in the first place. I stood up, looking down at both of them. Here's what's going to happen. In about 5 minutes, Morrison's CEO is going to receive a very detailed email about Brandon's creative accounting. By tomorrow morning, he'll be fired and facing criminal charges. You can't do this, Brandon said, standing up. I can and I am. You see, Brandon, you made this personal when you decided to destroy my marriage. Now I'm returning the favor. Emily started crying. Jake, please. This will ruin him. Good, he ruined me. His children should have thought about that before their father decided to become a thief and a cheater. I turned to Emily. And you, my dear wife, are going to be named as a co-conspirator. After all, you were the beneficiary of all that stolen money. I didn't know. Doesn't matter. You accepted gifts and trips paid for with embezzled funds. That makes you an accessory. Both of them were crying now, the romantic atmosphere completely destroyed. What do you want? Brandon asked desperately. I want you to understand what it feels like to lose everything. Your job, your reputation, your family. I want you to know what it's like when the person you trust most in the world betrays you. Jake, Emily pleaded, I love you. I made a mistake, but I love you. I looked at her, this woman who had shared my bed and my life for 8 years and felt nothing but contempt. No, Emily. You love the idea of not facing consequences for your actions. You love the fantasy of having everything you want without paying the price. I pulled out my phone and nodded to Chris across the room. But fantasy time is over. Wait! Brandon grabbed my arm. I'll do anything. I'll pay the money back. I'll leave Emily alone, whatever you want. It's too late for that. I sent the signal to Chris, who hit send on his laptop. Done. Morrison's CEO should have the email by now, along with copies sent to the police and the local newspaper. Emily collapsed back into her chair. You've destroyed us both. No, Emily. You destroyed yourselves. I just documented it. I started to walk away, then turned back one last time. Oh, and Emily, I've filed for divorce. You'll be served tomorrow. Don't bother contesting it. I have enough evidence to ensure you get nothing. Jake, please. Goodbye, Emily. Enjoy explaining this to your parents. I walked back to Tyler and Chris, who were watching the scene with fascination. How do you feel? Tyler asked. I looked back at Emily and Brandon, both crying, both realizing that their perfect little affair had cost them everything. Emily's reputation was destroyed, her marriage was over, and she was about to be implicated in a felony. Brandon was facing criminal charges, the end of his career, and the collapse of his family. I feel, I said slowly, like justice has been served. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Mr. Harper, this is Patricia Hunt. I just wanted to thank you for opening my eyes. I've filed for divorce, and I'm taking the children. Brandon will be hearing from my lawyer. Perfect. Another text, this one from Morrison Marketing's CEO. Mr. Harper, thank you for bringing this matter to our attention. Mr. Hunt has been terminated immediately, and we will be pressing charges. Even better. Over the next few days, the story exploded across social media and local news. Marketing executive embezzles $30,000 to fund affair. Emily and Brandon's photos were everywhere, their names synonymous with betrayal and theft. Emily's parents called me, apologizing profusely and begging me to somehow make this go away. But it was too late for that. The wheels of justice were turning, and there was no stopping them now. Brandon was arrested on embezzlement charges. His wife, Patricia, got the house, the kids, and most of his assets in their divorce. He ended up living in a studio apartment, working at a car dealership, his career in marketing permanently over. Emily fared slightly better. The prosecutor decided not to charge her as an accessory since she could plausibly claim ignorance about the embezzlement, but her reputation was ruined. She couldn't find work in marketing anywhere in the city. Last I heard, she was working as a receptionist at a dental office, living with her parents at age 33. As for me, I threw myself into my work, built up my client base, and eventually started my own design firm. I never remarried, but I dated occasionally. I learned to trust again, slowly and carefully. Sometimes people ask me if I regret what I did to Emily and Brandon, if I think my revenge was too harsh, too complete. The answer is no. They made their choices: to lie, to cheat, to steal, to destroy a marriage for their own selfish pleasure. I simply ensured that those choices had consequences. Emily wanted excitement over stability, passion over commitment. She got exactly what she asked for: a brief, thrilling affair that cost her everything she'd built over 8 years of marriage. Brandon wanted to have his cake and eat it too, a devoted wife at home and an exciting mistress on the side. Instead, he lost both, along with his career, his reputation, and his freedom. As I sat in my new office 6 months later, designing a logo for a young couple's wedding planning business, I thought about the nature of honesty. For years, I'd believed that honesty was about telling the truth, being faithful, keeping your word. But I'd learned something important. Sometimes, honesty means showing people exactly who they really are. Sometimes, it means forcing them to face the consequences of their actions. Emily and Brandon had lived in a fantasy world where their actions had no consequences, where they could hurt people without being hurt in return. I'd simply introduced them to reality. And reality, as they discovered, can be absolutely devastating. My phone buzzed. A text from Tyler. "Drinks tonight? I'm buying." I smiled, saving my work and shutting down the computer. On my way. Outside, the sun was shining, and I felt something I hadn't experienced in months. Genuine happiness. Not the bitter satisfaction of revenge, but the clean, simple joy of a man who had faced the worst betrayal possible and emerged stronger. Emily had taught me that love without honesty is just elaborate self-deception. Brandon had taught me that some people will take everything you offer and still want more. But I had taught them both something far more valuable: that actions have consequences, that betrayal has a price, and that sometimes the boring, predictable husband is actually the most dangerous person in the room. Justice, I had learned, is just honesty with teeth. And sometimes, honesty bites back.